Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Prairie Public Weekly Web Chat. Today's topic is exploring some middle school and high school resources for all of you teachers getting ready for back to school. So on the screen, you can see a variety of bit.ly links to different resource pages. So take a moment now. Those links are also in the description of the video. But take a moment now and open up the resource page that would be of most benefit to you for what you're doing. There are similar aspects to each of the resource pages, and I'm going to show you really how to navigate through PBS LearningMedia and how to find and save some of those resources. So you might as well be looking at a resource sheet that is pertinent to you, your class, your content, and helping you find information that's going to help support your learners. So wherever you choose to start, I will be walking us through a few of these different worksheets and trying to highlight what I think are some of the premier resources on each sheet. But know that that is next to impossible because there are so many resources that are pretty mind-blowing. The other caveat to know is that this video is being recorded on August 14th, and PBS LearningMedia is undergoing a redesign. And when you watch this come middle of September, October, the site may look different. My goal today, though, is to help those of you who are getting ready to go back to school find resources. So when the website is redone, most of the functionality will be very similar. And the resources, I will double check and make sure that these resource pages are all still accurate and work in the way that they are supposed to work. So check back, and come September, the beginning of October, we'll have a new chat on just how to navigate the PBS LearningMedia redesign. Hopefully that was enough filler time for you to open up one of the pages that was best for you. If not, pause the video, open something up, and we'll be ready to go. But I'm gonna hop into, first, we'll start off here with our social studies page. So if you're in PBS LMSS, PBS LearningMedia Social Studies, here are some of your best tips. At the beginning of all of the resource sheets, you will find these common resources, a link to a Learning Media 101 video. Again, this is a video designed for the current version of PBS LearningMedia. I will update that link once the new version of PBS LearningMedia is live and we have a how-to video for that. There's a lesson builder tool, and this was very key for me as a teacher who had Schoology as our learning management system. Here's how you can add PBS LearningMedia right into your Schoology account. So let me know if you have any troubles with that link. As you come in, join the chat. Welcome. We're just getting started with the high school social studies pages, and we'll continue on from there. So I want to point out that there is this Great States collection. If you click on the main link, this will take you to the Great States collection as a whole. And luckily, North Dakota is one of the states that were first to be added to the Great States collection. So when you click on North Dakota, you will see all of these additional drop-down features have opened now on the left-hand side. And you can see by topic the different areas of North Dakota history and geography and climate that they are covering. So even if you're not a middle school social studies teacher, I would encourage you to take a look at this collection. If you're talking about climate in your science class, why not also take a look at some of the resources specific to North Dakota's climate? If you're reading stories about settling the West in literature, why not take a look at the story of North Dakota settling? So there are a lot of different things that you can take a look at here in the Great States collection. Similar to that, there's also the North Dakota and Minnesota Regional Studies resource. And again, this would be a resource for all teachers. Certainly, I would challenge any of you math teachers out there to find a way that you could look at some of the content look at maps in North Dakota and do some calculations, triangulate some things. There is a little engineering, agricultural and transportation technologies section down here, as well as a variety of other resources, again, specific to our region. So if you're studying music, if you're looking at some of those things, why not take a look at some of the music performances from around our area? So all of those resources are here in this North Dakota collections section. All right, I want to hit probably one of the most famous resources that PBS can provide for teachers, and that's Ken Burns. And I, as an English teacher in the high school, use Ken Burns a lot. So on this page, I have linked to the Teaching U.S. History and Culture with Ken Burns. This is the most consolidated, organized collection of his work. If you're looking for something specific, you can break it down by the subgroups on this side. But if you look at the video tab, here are the different documentaries that are collected and stored within this collection. So whatever you're studying, you would be able to come here. So again, English, social studies teachers, this is a great resource for you for exploring the history, the culture, and the story of all of these different resources. So you have the Vietnam War collection. We'll come back to that in a moment. But all of the different collections here from Ken Burns. One-stop shop. I want to show you that some of these collections are a little bit different. What you'll find, so within the baseball, you'll see when you click on a collection, you'll get this little loaded list of features. You know that all of these are videos because they have this handy dandy little play sign right there. So if you want to take a look at Doris Kearns Goodwin and talking about baseball rivalries, the video is here for you to use. You can grab the link from that video here in order to share it on your classroom page. If you're logged into Schoology, you would be able to share this directly to your Schoology page. I also like these features, and these are staying. The redesign of PBS LearningMedia will still include a direct link to your Google Classroom. So I can click on that classroom, choose which class, and then choose how I want to share this resource. I can also click into Remind, which is a great, easy resource for teachers. We'll see if I can get myself logged in here to it. And now I have the option, I can click on which class I want. And now I can type a little message to them. I like Remind. As a teacher at the high school level, I learned that high schoolers don't check email. So it was a silly way to try to communicate with them. But if I could send them a message to their phone, it was perfect. And I also heard feedback from parents that they liked this too for a lot of the same reasons. They're busy, they're not always checking things, but frequently their phone isn't far away from them. So this I also liked because you're limited to characters. So already this one is a little too long and I'm not going to be able to send it. But I could send this link directly to parents, to students, and say, hey, here's the link of the video that we did today. This is great for students who are absent, that they can have this link right on their phone. So if the baseball team left during 6th period, then I can send this to my afternoon classes, my 6th and 7th period classes. Could send it to everybody because it can't hurt a kid to have the resource again and maybe rewatch it and maybe absorb something a little bit better. So that feature is available on all of the PBS LearningMedia content. And like I said, the redesign will include that Remind feature. So if you're not familiar with Remind, I highly recommend it. It was my favorite and preferred method for communicating with parents and students as a high school teacher. Back to our social studies content. I apologize, social studies teachers. I organized this based on my recollection of high school social studies, which is probably not very fair, seeing how that was over 20 years ago. So I have this set up, though, kind of by general topics. So you'll see a few resources for early America, some information about the founding fathers and the founding of America, some US Gov resources. I want to note that for most of our subjects, for science, for each of the disciplines within science, for math, for English, there is this great crash course collection right on PBS LearningMedia. So you can see over here, the collection includes the biology, chemistry, computer science, ecology, literature, US history. You have all of these different videos. This is John Green and his brother Hank talking about various topics. They tend to speak very quickly, even more quickly than I tend to speak, if you can imagine that being possible. But these are great videos to help use as a hook. So certainly a video could be used to start a class. It could be used as an assignment to get kids starting to think about something, so that when they come to class the next day, you can dive into the content. This could also be used as a follow-up of a deepening and extension, or as a review to something that you're learning in class. But the videos tend to be pretty short, so we're looking at 6.5 minutes, and we get some information about the crash course, government and politics, and how that starts. So they're a little goofy, they're a little silly, but I think that you'll enjoy them. In my experience, I enjoy their literature videos, and my experience is that students do too. Those of you who are English teachers, John Green is the famous author of Fault in Our Stars, Looking for Alaska, Abundance of Catherines. So he's someone that a lot of teenagers have read and are familiar with. And so to hear his voice talking about some of these topics is great. In addition, you will never find someone who is more excited about these topics than John Green. He's an amazing ambassador of just selling the great excitement of any given topic. So for each of the disciplines, I recommend that you check out the Crash Course series and see how you might use those videos to increase student engagement around any given topic. Back on our social studies sheet, this again is the US government resources, and then, like I said, apologies, then this is organized by wars. And that is my main memory of studying social studies. Again, apologies, but that's what I remember. And so it goes somewhat chronologically, but there are some fun things in here. So fun in quotation marks. I do like this Learn the Address collection. This is part of the Ken Burns collection, so you can find it there. But I've also linked it here because it's an interesting guide to teaching and learning the Gettysburg Address. So high school English teachers, what a great way to study the rhetoric and look at the impact of delivery in doing the Gettysburg Address. And obviously for social studies teachers, looking at the historical context. So on Learning Media, you know what type of media it is by the little icon. So I know that in addition to the fact that this says lesson guide, I know that this is the lesson guide. So as you're exploring Learning Media, know that there are different types of content. And so for some of these lesson guides, you just need to launch them and it takes you to a PDF of that lesson. And now you can save this. And if you have your Cami reader on your computer, you could make some notes or do whatever you need to do with this content. I like this collection because it also has a whole bunch of videos of famous people reciting the Gettysburg Address. So take a look at this as a collection, as a way for you to talk about and study rhetorical impact of setting, of speaker, of voice, do some comparison of what is the impact of having Elmo say the Gettysburg Address compared to all of these past presidents talking about it. So a fun little resource there. Then it goes through the other, so World War II, there's this nice collection of Prairie Memories. These are interviews with local veterans from North Dakota and Minnesota and their experiences during World War II. So I highly recommend. These are part of that Minnesota, North Dakota collection, and they're under history. So you can find those in there. Japanese internment. I also linked this. This is part of the Ken Burns collection, but I put it here as well for the Defying the Nazis, the Sharps War, and the work that different people went through to try to help protect and save refugees. As a companion to that, don't forget about our local story, Herman Stern, and how you might connect to the story of the local man from Valley City and how he too helped save over 125 different people by rescuing them from Nazi Germany. So if you're diving into this history, take a look at Sharp's War, but then consider providing a nice contrast and looking at this additional resource and checking out the documentary on the mission of Herman Stern. So a little side plug from something not PBS, but if you're teaching in North Dakota, Minnesota, I think that would be a very powerful resource. Same thing, English, social studies teachers, you're getting a lot. I am getting to you science teachers, I promise. Here's the main thing that you'll want to check out. This is the brand new Vietnam War collection, that Vietnam War documentary that aired just over a year ago. And here's where you'll find the video clips that you have access to online. It's not the entire thing. It's not the entire full length 16, 20 hours of documentary, but you wouldn't want that anyway. What I like about the collection that's in here is you'll see that this is a different look for the collections. There are multiple resources that are banded together. So you've got a couple different activities that you can look at, and the video segments that you need for students to watch in order to complete any of these activities are linked right here for you. So this is kind of a one-stop shop of a nice integrated media literacy lesson where the digital media rather, is integrated. Students are watching and using that media in order to engage in higher order thinking and deeper level conversations about the forces that fueled the Vietnam War. And some of the different activities, some of the different factors that were leading up to Vietnam. And that is true of many of these collections, that this is an activity pack. You can see that word there. And so now you have an analysis of US early strategy, the political philosophy. What a nice way to jigsaw within the class and ask different groups to take a look at different factors that the political leaders were taking into consideration as they're going through this experience. Use the media as a resource for them to watch and re-watch while they're going through this analysis, looking at other primary source texts and documents to get a better sense of what was going on for the politicians at that time. So to access any of those things, again, here's your overall lesson plan, and it will take you through. There's some guided graphic organizers there, nothing fancy, but it at least gives you some of the framework for that activity. And then when you're ready for that video, here it is. Again, these are nice and condensed. We're talking about 3 to 6 minute videos usually. So you're not asking students to watch a big, long, drawn out piece of media. It's a focused piece of media that gets right to the heart of the issue that you're talking about. We know from a variety of research that generally speaking, students can stay focused to media. It's about 1 minute per grade level. So if you think the average first grader should be watching videos that are right around 1 minute long. So when we get up to high school, we have a lot more flexibility in how long the videos are, but we're still talking that really about 10 to 15 minutes is kind of the peak amount of attention that you can expect a teenager to really be able to focus on any sort of digital media content. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about resources to use, but also how you're going to use them. So certainly you can break up a longer piece of media into viewable chunks, just like LearningMedia has done for you. But those are some of the tips that I have for making sure that you're maximizing any of those digital resources. Along with the Vietnam years from Ken Burns, there are the Prairie Memories, the Vietnam years. Just like the Prairie Memories World War II from above, these are videos from local activists, protesters, veterans, nurses, journalists, people who were in some way impacted by the story and the presence of the Vietnam War. So this is a very powerful way to bring local voices into your classroom and really help students see that while they might be studying about this in a book or reading Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carry, there are people all around them that went through this. And so we have this great living, breathing record of history that we can actually engage with. So some powerful resources there to bring in, again, the power of local voices into your classroom. Some of the resources on LearningMedia, and I hope that these make it through the transition, are photos. And when I'm teaching students about media literacy, I try to remember to teach them how to read all types of texts. Everything is a text. This photo is a text. And we can help students learn how to really read and analyze what's going on in an image when we take the time to have them read a text like a photo. There are lots of other advantages as well. Certainly reading a photo takes far less time than reading an article or reading a portion of the book. So I encourage you to think about how can you use infographics? How can you use charts and graphs? How can you use photos, commercials, shorter pieces of media, and help your students learn how to read that media just as they read their other content and source material. When you're reading an image, there are all kinds of other factors to look at. And I think when we give students the opportunity to be inquisitive and to dive into things that they see constantly in their very media saturated world that they live in, we're helping them be more social media savvy, but we're also helping them really be able to dive in to think critically about some of the things that are being posted and shared online. And helping them read texts is one way to do that. So that was just one image from the Civil Rights Photo Gallery from 1950s to today, a variety of sometimes haunting but beautiful photos that could prompt conversation, certainly could be used to kick off a discussion, use it as an entry point into a reading that is to come, use it as a journal activity, lots of different ways to start with a simple image and let that launch you into your lesson. Some resources on economics as well as media literacy. Hopefully you can find at least one resource in all of this, social studies teachers, on something that you can use to help enhance your classroom. Science teachers, as I said, we start the same, some general resources, and I've tried to put together some general resources here at the top of just general science collections. As you scroll down, like I like this, there's a little science fair resource. This gives you some ideas on just different basic chemical reactions, like different experiments that you could do with students or and send as extra supplementary resources for students to complete at home. So that's a fun little resource. Anything that's highlighted, that's bolded, is something that is a little bit richer, deeper, something I recommend exploring. There's just too much to explore. Here's the link to the Crash Course Biology video as promised, but I also want to share this It's Okay to Be Smart collection. For all of you science folks, there are a few different, you can see over here that there are a few different topics that go with this collection. And in a similar fashion, I find these videos pretty entertaining. There are a variety of different topics. Again, they're short, they're to the point, but they tend to be a little bit goofy as they analyze and break down what's going on. So the video is here for you to use. Again, we're right around that 5 minutes. So a nice, short, quick resource to share home, to assign if you're going to flip your classroom. And again, you can do that right to your Google Classroom. You can assign it to Remind. You can grab the link and post it wherever you need to post it. You'll notice that over on the side, there's some basic information for you. Some of the resources are available for download. This is a stream only, so you do have to stream it on the platform. So just depending on licensing and copyright, some of the videos are available for you to download directly, so you don't have to worry about Wi-Fi connections and all of those things that tend to go wrong about the time that we need them. The little heart on the side here allows you to favorite something. I'm not logged in for some bizarre reason with my account. So as I log in to my LearningMedia account, I can add this to my favorites. Then when I go up onto the dashboard, my favorites are there. I believe a lot of this functionality will stay. Right now in the current version, you can't favorite a collection, like a whole group of resources. You can only favorite one specific resource. And I was told that that is one of the things that they're working on. Underneath your dashboard, you can see also other resources, some assignments. So you can see that I've made some different assignments. You can make a lesson builder. You can make a few different things. If I use this lesson builder, this is a built-in way to create a lesson and embed a video right into a step-by-step guide. So you can have a title for your slide, you can give students instructions, and then you can build in some questions, you can build in media, so post a video. So you could guide students through a step-by-step series of resources right here on LearningMedia. If you are a Google Classroom school, you would do something very similar if you were using Google Forms. So if you are a Google school, that might be easier to just build it right in your Google Forms, and then you can use whatever resources you use for grading and have it right there. And you can save and assign any of those resources. So for biology, chemistry, some physics, check out the It's Okay to Be Smart and see if there's a fun video that you can use to hook students in on a different concept. Or, like I said, use as an extension. How do you take this basic information that we've talked about in class, and what is the extension moving forward? There's a lot of different stuff in here as well, more from the Green Brothers Crash Course Chemistry. There are a few different, I think, nice resources here. I found this helpful. This is a high school science teacher who takes you through lesson by lesson the different ideas related to his chemistry textbook. So keep that in mind. The lessons go in order based on the text that he's using, but these are presumably videos that he was producing along with his local station in order to help flip his classroom. So you have the video. Note that under this video, you also have some resources. So any of the handouts that he is going to talk about, all of the lab, the metric awareness quiz, all of the resources that you need to conduct this lesson are right here with this resource. Not all resources have these rich support materials. That's one of the reasons why PBS is going through a relaunch of LearningMedia in order to help flesh that out. But this is a resource that I think has done a great job of having an introductory video. This one's a little bit longer, but have all of the resource materials that you need right there. And again, you can explore that whole collection that he has. He has some physics videos as well, but it just takes you through these different lesson by lesson. Back in our tip sheet, There's the It's Okay to Be Smart Earth Climate Sciences. So you've seen this guy before, but some short little videos about different aspects of climate change and climate science. So that's there for you. I just find him entertaining. Another one that I find entertaining, you can see what pulls me in. Like, I like some of these things, but this gross science collection, it's from Nova. So you know that the content is very well done. B, it does explore some gross science, some really weird things like, can bird poop make clouds? And again, you've got the video. There's some support materials here. This one just has some basic discussion questions. So nothing that's too crazy, but sometimes if you're in a pinch, these can be very helpful. What a great guide to leave for a sub if you have to be gone one day. And then the video is here. We're looking at about 4 minutes, so a nice opening activity. And this young woman takes us through the whole science of how bird poop and guano are used and how that can get reabsorbed into the atmosphere and then, in theory, make clouds. So one of her questions is, does that mean that when it rains, it is bird poop falling on us? So an interesting little way to hook kids with some gross science. And then some astronomy resources. Again, the It's Okay to Be Smart in the Physics and Physical Science collection. I did also try to put in, I thought that for high schoolers, this was a nice way, a teachable moment to look at Newton's second law and how they're looking at, I liked this teachable moment collection, and it takes you through with this nice little 1.5-minute long video of the second law of motion using cars. So within the resource sheet, I mostly have saved collections for you, but for things like this, I have a few very specific little resources that I thought would be of interest. So again, share that to your classroom, text it home or text it to students. What a great way to keep parents in the loop. I never think of keeping parents in the loop in my classroom as a high school teacher, but what an easy way to say, hey, today we learned about Newton's second law of motion. Here's a video that explains it. When your child gets home today, ask them to explain the second law of motion to you, and then watch this video together to review. And I think that that could be really powerful to help keep parents in the loop, keep them engaged, and also be reinforcing some of those same concepts that you're talking about in the classroom back at home. Too much stuff to share, and we're going to go into math. I'll give a little disclaimer. Math folks, I apologize. You are the most scantily served group on PBS Learning Media. That said, there are still a lot of great resources. I've put some general collections here. This is probably the best collection. This math is awesome. Some entertaining little things, but it's all broken down here by grade level. You can explore the awesome resource from PBS. There's an educator hangout, so you can join other educators and get some more information. This is pretty old when that happened. So math is awesome. Resources there. Another collection to check out, particularly for middle school, is Math at the Core. And there are a variety of breakdown activities by grade level for the different math concepts as tied to looking at the Common Core. So again, some nice rotation and dilation, a variety of videos that you can use to explore those math concepts. When you go into the video, again, you may or may not have support materials. That's all part of the redesign. Hopefully there'll be more for you. But you can see here, in addition to this video, and the video is 3 minutes long, but in addition to this video, there's the whole activity of what the students will be able to do and your procedures. If you're anything like me, you're going to use this as a starting point, but you might not use the whole thing. You have the resource sheet so that you can solve everything. And you have the handout for students. So there's a variety of resources here for you that you can use right with this lesson. So again, a nice all-in-one package that you could save and have for a sub, have on a day that you're out, and this is the video packet that you're going to use and have students explore. Back on the collection page, there's links to Khan Academy here, some real world math, which I did enjoy, of looking at how math connects to the day-to-day world. I feel like as an English teacher, I get it all the time, and why do I have to know this? And I look at students and just ask them, well, do you ever plan on reading, speaking, or writing ever again in your life? And I have spoken to a lot of math teachers who say kids really struggle with how are they going to use math in their life. So this collection gives you a couple resources on helping them see the real world connection to math. So check out this real world math from KQED's The Lowdown and see if that can help your students see the day-to-day application of math. This Math Active has some lessons available in English and Spanish. This one's going to look a little different because it pops right to the resource packet, but you can see the lesson here. And so this will go through, you can pick your different grade level of which activities you want, and go through a few different math activities. Then most of these on the second page are more specific, different videos. These are single videos. Like I said, I apologize. Math is a bit weak right now. I'll just be honest. I still think that we've got some good things, but I would encourage you to explore this collection. Some of the collections that we have are so rich, you really don't need a ton of other resources. Just by exploring Khan Academy or the Math at the Core, the Think Math, these collections are going to be enough to spur a lot of your lessons. So that's a little bit about PBS Learning Media for math. And last but not least, we're going to go through a little bit of PBS Learning Media for English Language Arts. Again, there's way too much to share, but you've got your standards, some of your general collections. So I've linked to the crash course content. I love all these videos as a great way to launch a book, to look at why do we read, but to use any of these videos as a starting point as we're exploring a piece of literature. So there he is, the man himself, John Green. You do have this nice little extra list of state standards. What I like is that these are also aligned not just to the national standards for Common Core, but the local standards are also in here. So that's a handy feature that you can search learning media by standards. In this collection, I've also showed you the Ken Burns collection. There's some poets everywhere. And brand new this year, we'll be talking about this more, the Great American Read. Here's information about the Great American Read itself, and I will add the Great American Read collection. But if you're at PBS Learning Media, you can search for anything like the Great American Read. And I think, oh, I don't have it on here. Just like any search engine, you can search for different topics. You can focus by grade level. I recommend including a grade up and a grade down if you're searching for something specific, because something that I might label as a 12th grade resource, a 7th grade teacher could certainly use and adapt it and use it in a different way and make it quite successful in their classroom. Conversely, I think that some videos that are designed for 5th and 6th grade, if used correctly and in an appropriate way, could be kind of fun reviews for high school students as well. You can filter by subject and you can filter by media type. So we've talked about the idea of helping students learn to read all kinds of texts, but you can filter by things. I typically like to filter by collection if there's something that I'm looking for, so I can find one massive clump of reading. And there it is, the Great American Read. And now I have access to the Great American Read, the episodes from the Great American Read. So far, it's just been the launch episode, and the rest will start airing here in September. But then all the other books for which there are resources on Learning Media are linked right here. So this is a great way to explore some of the texts that you might be teaching in class, and use this as a way for your lit circles as a supplement to help them explore the content of something they're reading, for you as a teacher to explore and launch content. And that is the Great American Read collection. You've got a lot of classics, you've got your Shakespeare, some opera. This is a fun, I taught Frankenstein for my seniors, and I liked the idea of this show. I haven't quite figured out how I would work it in, but I think it could be an interesting side project to talk about how themes in literature continue to reappear. And what makes classic literature and what makes great literature great is that those themes are enduring, that those themes continue, and we have them forever. And that's one of the reasons why we still read Frankenstein, because it is still relevant. So kind of a funny little twist on that. You'll want to check out the Masterpiece collection. Take a look at any of the resources for whom there are Masterpiece collection features. So not a ton of authors, not a ton of people, but if you go through here, you can see quite a few of the different resources. Again, I like to look at these resources and things like the Shakespeare collection, the Shakespeare Uncovered. These are great ways to hook students. So a video to use at the beginning of teaching Hamlet. I'll go to Macbeth, another one that I taught. So to look at the supernatural elements, to look at how soliloquy is used, to look at some of these structures, but also to help students dive into the texts themselves. So a nice way to look at the supernatural elements right in Macbeth. There's a little lesson there for you, some introductory materials, and then the video that you would watch, this witchcraft here in Shakespeare's time. So a few different options of resources to use. I think it's a nice way to break up the reading. It's a nice way to inject a little bit of curiosity for your students. There's a whole section here on media literacy, and there are quite a few resources that I've added in here that are not part of PBS Learning Media. So know that, but I've shared some of my favorite resources that I use when I teach media literacy. And again, any of you as teachers can help your students be better readers of all types of texts by helping them look at and read different types of materials. So I have some of my favorite commercials. Commercials were one of my favorite ways to help teach text and reading texts. This was something that, this was something that I would use with my AP class particularly. And we would look at the rhetorical strategy and devices being used. So again, instead of reading a long essay, we're watching a 1.5-minute long video, and we're analyzing it for rhetorical devices. We're analyzing it for structure. We're analyzing it for composition. And we're talking about the power of all of those different things being used together. This is one of my favorite videos because you have this lovely little mouse. The tone of the music drastically changes. Students are always horrified that I'm showing them this video, and I keep saying, just trust me, just trust me. Or I just say nothing and I let them be horrified because it's mildly entertaining. And sometimes you need a nice giggle as a teacher. And then the music changes again. And now the mouse is just fine. And Eye of the Tiger plays. And if you advance the video, you learn that it is an advertisement for Seriously Strong cheddar cheese. I like using different types of texts. You can also help teach students the power of rereading or re-watching a text. How often do we see kids read something once and then not go back to it? But we as teachers know that's not how our brains remember things. So these are great short little things that you can use to help your students learn the habit of reading things more than once. I will check out why the Michael Phelps link isn't working for me, because that is a great one of if you are doing some media literacy. Then this is a great one, and I should have shared this as well with all of you social studies teachers, the Daily News Story. This is a great resource from PBS NewsHour to look at what is happening in the news. So they have little clips and summaries from the PBS NewsHour that you could use to talk about things that are happening. I think it's important also if you are teaching students about media literacy to have them compare a source like PBS NewsHour, have them watch a clip of the PBS NewsHour and how they cover a story and compare it to just what it looks like to watch CNN. And turn the sound off on both of them. Just have students look. What is the level of distraction? What else is going on the screen? So this is a beautiful resource for talking about a lot of different things: media literacy, fact checking, quality sources, and compare a source like PBS NewsHour with a more perhaps popular or mainstream source like CNN, and have students really see side by side the extreme difference of how news is being presented. So another great way to build their inquiry skills and their critical thinking skills about what are they seeing when they're reading different types of media in literature, online, on the television. And the Lowdown has a great resource of exploring a lot of different topics for that. Above the Noise is another lovely resource that you can use to help launch student inquiry projects. I like their videos. As with all the videos here, they tend to be pretty short, but they tackle some pretty hardcore subjects that they will give you an overview of different perspectives of this topic and a few different resources for students to explore that topic. Again, you've got a notes-taking sheet, nothing fancy, but at least there's something that you can use to get started on what you want your students to be thinking about. Note that this one is for use for stream, download, and share. So this is a video that you would be able to download right to your computer and be able to have to repost and to not have to worry about Wi-Fi in your classroom. Some information there. We go into the performing arts, some visual arts resources, some career unit resources, some lovely help. You gotta check out the grammar. And this is probably what sold me on PBS LearningMedia. When I thought of PBS, I thought of great resources for little kids. And I started exploring LearningMedia, and I started putting in just different search terms. And I typed in semicolon and colon and a few other grammar type things, and I got stuff that I could use and things that I would have used with my students. Some short little snappy videos that explained this grammar concept in a minute and did it better than I would have done. So again, teach the concept in class. Send this as a follow-up on Remind or on Classroom. Ask parents, ask your kid, how does a semicolon work? I have this video. So send that home to parents, post it in your Google Classroom. Use this as a hook the night before. Hey, your homework is to watch this 1-minute video, and send this home for students on Remind or on your Classroom, or post it to your shared site, and get kids to start thinking about that resource. There's so many resources, as I've said. I can't possibly cover all of the different resources for middle school and high school English, math, social studies, and science. My only hope is that you will take the time to look through these different resource sheets. And then if you do have a specific question, if there's something that you're trying to find, if there's something that you want support with, please message me. It's dbachigard@prairiepublic.org. I will make sure that my email address is in the description of the video. If there's anything that I can support you with, help you find any resources, or just be able to spend a little bit more time walking through some of the specific resources with you, please let me know. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at how to use PBS LearningMedia, in part because they're doing the relaunch here in a few weeks. So I don't want you to spend a lot of time learning how to do something and then it all changing. In addition, I feel like you can all figure out how to use a search engine, that you know that. More important to me was to help you weed through the thousands of resources available on PBS LearningMedia and help you find some targeted resources that are really going to help you jumpstart your teaching. So let me know if I can answer any questions, but otherwise I will see you next time on our weekly web chat.